classroom management piece, just an example, and it kind of baffled me. Just think about a kindergarten classroom. What should kindergartners be doing at the end of the day, right? They're going to be running around. They're going to be smiling, happy. Some even going to be crying. But I've been to a couple classrooms this year, believe it or not, and teachers want the kindergartners to be quiet and just to sit all day. It's like, no. And then they complain about, oh, I'm having all these behaviors, and you want a kindergartner to literally sit 40 minutes at a time so you can lecture them. Like, no. So it's just going back to educating our staff and, giving them the tools they need. And it's the same thing like when we're shaping behaviors. It's not a magic pill. It's not going to happen overnight. We have to be consistent, implement the strategies, keep teaching, give feedback, and keep teaching some more. We just have to keep going. But oftentimes in our education system, they feel like, oh, because I told you one time, you're supposed to know, and that's supposed to be it. And that's just not how it works.
I wish it was so. I wish, I know you wish it too, that if telling worked, we wouldn't be here. If blaming worked, we wouldn't be here. We'd be out of jobs, right? Everybody's told, there's always, and if giving a plan worked, if setting goals worked, if any of this stuff worked in and of itself, but we know this is signs of consequences, getting people in touch with consequences that maintains their behavior, particularly positive consequences, positive reinforcement, something of added value. That is so good. As you say it, man, I just see this stuff. So I've seen cafeterias, right? In a very, we'll talk offline about this, but in one of the high poverty schools, I was always in these schools. I love these kids. I mean, gosh, it was a bunch of good people, but they were treating the kids like it was a detention center in the whole school. I mean, they had cops coming out twice a week, and the kids were asked to come in and sit in the morning, sit in the hallway across from each other at a voice level of zero. So you expect these kids, elementary kids, to come in and follow this expectation of not talking, right? While you wait for everybody to arrive. It's impossible for that to happen. So now, as you can imagine, this expectation has been set, but the kids can't follow it. So what's that put now the teachers in a position to do is that they're walking up down the hallway and they're correcting kids all morning, right? And so the teachers are now losing instructional control because as soon as they get by, the kids start whispering again, right? And also stimulus control because the kids start to learn, like, we don't really have to follow teachers' directions, right? We just got, when they're just like when you're when you're driving out on the highway, the one time you do slow down is when you see the cop, right? Otherwise, you're pushing the speed limit because our behavior is under contingency of negative reinforcement, and it creates such a aversive environment. I try to help educators see, like, imagine if you were in that kind of environment. Would you want to, be around that school leader? Help school leaders understand that. Would you want to be around your district leader if all they were doing was correcting your behavior?
Yeah, no, not at all.
Yeah, man.
Not at all. And when I tell my staff for educators, build relationships. That's the biggest thing. I mean, that takes you and helps you go so much further with a student. And excuse me for jumping around, but let me speak on that real quick. That's a part of how I got into education, actually. So I worked in some of those schools as you were describing. And as a young Black man, to be honest with you, I can relate to some of those kids. They're more willing to listen to me because of how I look. And I understand the things or I have the potential to understand some of the things they may be going on or going through, rather, or I like some of the same food or music, from a cultural standpoint. So again, I'm aware it's more easier for me to relate. So as you're building that rapport with a kid, even if you don't look like them or sound like them, just have a genuine conversation. Hey, how was your weekend? What do you like to do? What's your favorite food? So you can relate to them. And then let's say they have an episode where they're having those maladaptive behaviors. You've built a rapport with them. You put the work in the beginning, that now when they're having these behaviors, it's more easier for you to de-escalate that student, opposed to this one teacher that's always stern, always getting on them. They don't want to hear nothing you have to say. They're going to elope, or they're going to say something they don't have any business saying, and now what? Now they're suspended. Now they're missing instructional time, and that's a whole nother can of worms. So build that rapport, man.